Let us look at some of the pollutant compounds. Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS is one important class of compound. So, PFAS group is a highly fluorinated. So, we have plenty of fluorine groups attached here. So, these are the aliphatic compounds which differ in their functional group and length of the carbon chains. There are some examples are given. One is perfluorocarboxylates and short chain perfluoroalkyl sulfonates, perfluorooctane sulfonates, perfluorooctanoate. So these are all the different compounds which are shown here, and they all have fluorine. So why these PFAS are bad? The reason is these PFCA and PFSA have very low acid dissociation constant and are almost fully ionized under the most environmental conditions. So this is the major problem because there are plenty of ions are there. As an ionic substance, these compounds also bind to protein and phospholipids. So that is the major damage they are actually causing to the biomolecules in our body, not only in our body, even in the animals and other species which exist in the Arctic ecosystem. These are typically found at elevated concentrations in the tissues with the high protein and phospholipid contents, for example, liver, kidney and blood. So this is the observation people had made. And several of these compounds have been shown to accumulate in food chains, including those in the remote environment such as Arctic. In other words, these compounds are generally produced in the many countries. But Arctic doesn't have any industries which produce this compound, but these are accumulated there. So that is the reason they affect the entire food chain in the Arctic region. So how these fluorinated contaminated reach the Arctic? This AMAP had given a very nice report in which they discussed about the ways in which how the pollutants from various parts reach the Arctic. So the point sources are from far away from the Arctic region, and mainly through the atmospheric air they are being transported. So the atmospheric oxidative transformation takes these compounds, and some of them waterborne ionic PFAS are during the rain or precipitation they fall into the Arctic Ocean, and this another mode of transport is riverine transport, maybe the sewage treatment plant or some of the airborne precursors from the other temperate region. They get into the river, and those rivers finally end up in the Arctic region. So that is also another way of transport of pollutants from the globe to the Arctic region, and this leads to the consumption because there are various food web species which take these pollutants, and they are getting biotransformed into the species what live there. So one pathway focuses on volatile precursors mainly that have been detected in the Arctic atmosphere and shown to degrade to PFCAs in the atmosphere. So that is what the long range atmospheric transport, that atmospheric oxidative transformation happens. And the second pathway is the aquatic one. So this is the riverine pathway through which the fluorochemicals are reaching the Arctic region. And as we mentioned, there are a lot of data about these pollutants in the Arctic region. So we only have a limited data, especially related to the air, precipitation and snow. Similarly, the ice caps, terrestrial environment, freshwater environment, lakes and river waters. Because of all the limited data, we are unable to find out. See, when we are looking at the PFOA in seawater, that is petagrams per liter. So we have 0 to 15. That means there are various regions where we do not have any these pollutants in the region, but greater than 500 if you look at. So this region we have, and the top one is basically the Arctic region. So in the Arctic region we have somewhere between 15 to 60. So some places are 15 to 30 and some other places are 30 to 60, and these regions near Greenland and other thing have 60 to 100 pg of these pollutants in the seawater. So here is another PFAS in seawater at different places, especially in the Arctic Circle. So we have different compounds and their concentrations are actually given here, how much they are accumulated in the Arctic region. The next one is the brominated flame retardants. So these are halogens are effective in capturing free radicals. These brominated compounds are very effective in capturing free radicals. So flame retardants use halogenated derivatives. So this is one of the reasons they are used. But these brominated flame retardants comprises of chemically diverse compounds. Here you can see the structure of all these compounds. we have a biphenyl system here. Here we have a ether linkage connecting to aromatic rings are given here. So these are the different types of functional groups that are present in this compound, and these are additive or reactive substances and part of a are to a minor extent bound to synthetic polymers, and they are used to delay the ignition and thus increase fire safety. These are contaminants of emerging concern. So currently we are not so sure how much these compounds are going to create problems, but these are emerging concern, contaminants of emerging concern. And the current status, when we look at, there is no data basically, so to say, or very few data for the terrestrial environment, and in many cases only limited information on the freshwater studies. So this is the current status. We do not have enough data to know what actually is happening. So the majority of biota were of a few species of marine fish, seabirds and mammal. But although these environmental levels are less studied, especially with respect to brominated fire retardants, the study is not sufficient to conclude. It is having low risk, like that we cannot immediately conclude. And geographically, when we look at, there are lack of data from the Arctic Russia and very few data available from Alaska. So circumpolar trends are also not possible to study, because one is the eastern region, another one is Siberia is in the eastern part, Canada is in the western part. So that means if we are not having clear-cut information in both the places, it's very difficult to find out the circumpolar data. And of course, it is becoming clear that this environmental concentration of many of these new brominated flame retardants are increasing. So that's the only thing. So that's why these compounds are called as chemicals of emerging concern. And the next one is the chlorinated flame retardants. They also belong to the same type like the brominated one. And the next major class of compound is the pesticides. So many of the pesticides, as shown here, are used in the agricultural in various parts of the world, but they reach the Arctic through the riverine system. So that is where the accumulation happens in the Arctic region. So these pesticides are also now becoming pollutants or chemicals of emerging concerns in the Arctic region. There are also other type of compounds like organophosphate compounds or phthalates, short chain chlorinated parafilms, siloxanes, etc. All these compounds are becoming pollutants in the Arctic region.